Hello everybody, today I'm going to talk about the concept of good debt. Now before we go straight into it, I just want to say it's 7 o'clock here in Sweden, so I'm up early doing this video before work. So I hope you appreciate it. And just to introduce the concept today about good debt, I'm going to split it up into corporate and into personal. So we talk about the different type of benefits that the different type of players see in the market. And if we're gonna go straight into, actually before we go straight into it, I'm aware that most people when they hear debt they think about the student loans, the car payments, all that annoying stuff. But today we're going to explore together how it actually can bring benefits. Alright, so I'm going to go over an example from corporate first. And I've done some pre-drawing here. Now, in a corporation, the owners, they have a demand for a percentage of return that they want on the invested capital they have in the company. We denote this as RE, return on equity. And they need to have a certain ROI on projects in order for them to undertake them from the first place. So let's do an example here, and let's say that the owners of a company want to see 12% return on the invested capital that they have in the company. And now let's introduce a project here into the mix. Let's say they want to open a new battery factory. And the projected return on this battery factory is 10%. Now, with the numbers I've just presented to you, this is a no-go. Even though this project has a projected return of 10%, it's below the return on investment that the owners want to see, and thus the project will not receive financing. Now, let's introduce debt into the mix, debt financing. This is denoted as RD. Let's say that they can take a loan, 50% of the project, and that the interest they have to pay is 5%. That's what they have to pay back the bank. Now I've pre-written a little equation here, taking, let's say they have 50-50 financing, so then it's 6% from the equity part and 2.5% from the debt part, and that's going to give an average of 8.5%. And as we can see, the cost of capital here of 8.5% is lower than the projected return of the capital, which was 10%. You can see that there's a profit margin here of 1.5%. And now that we brought debt into the mix, we can see that this battery factory project, it will be undertaken, it will actually happen. And this is the benefit of the good debt from a corporate standpoint. Now you may think, oh, I'm just a retail investor here, and how can debt possibly be good for me? Well, from a personal standpoint, it's a way to bring more risk into your finances. And how can this possibly be good? Well, more risk means more return and also risk of more loss. So let's say that you have researched a stock that you really like and you believe a lot in this stock, but you only have $20,000 in the bank, and even if it becomes a huge success and goes up hundreds %, it won't gain you much return in terms of real money. Now a lot of trading platforms out there offer their users the opportunity to take on debt. So let's say you have this project again, you have really researched it, you believe a lot in this, and you want to make a bigger bet. You want to see some real returns in case things go well. Well, then you can take a loan, and then maybe you can invest $30,000 or $40,000 instead of the $20,000 that you have in the bank account today. So it's a way to bring in more risk, and get the potential to have a greater loss or a greater return on investment in positive terms. It's also a way to smooth consumption, if we talk theoretically. If you just take a look at yourself today and you think about, do I like to save? Do I like to put away money every month? Most of us don't really do that. We like to consume, we like to buy things. It's a consumer economy. And the money that we spend today is worth a lot more to us than money in the future. But using debt, it is possible to smooth consumption in that regards, so that we don't have to put away as much today. We can take some loans and use that to invest to potentially be able to consume more tomorrow. So that's one way to look at it from a personal standpoint. Also, let's bring up some other examples. Let's say student debt. Now, why would anybody willingly take on student debt? The thought here is that by borrowing from yourself in the future and investing in yourself and gaining knowledge, you will be able to generate a greater return in the future. So it's the same concept there, smoothing consumption. So this has been a different take on good debt, both from a corporate standpoint and a little bit from a personal standpoint. And I really hope this knowledge will help some of you out. If you like this type of content, make sure to subscribe to Simply Explained. Thank you for listening.